Hello and welcome to yet another Subscriber Saturday. So this is the weekly show where you, the viewer, subscribers, send me videos of your golf swing, whether that be chipping, putting, driving, iron play, whatever it may be. And I'm going to choose 2 to 3 each week to put into my software, show you on the screen what these golfers do, and just give these golfers hopefully some advice that they can use to take their game forward. Now, as you can imagine, we haven't really got enough time in this video to go into massive depth with these videos and go through in fine detail what these golfers are doing. But the idea really is just to give 2 to 3 golfers each week just something that they can look at in their game to hopefully help them improve, hit the ball better, shoot lower scores, hold more putts, whatever it may be. Today we've got 2 golfers with iron swings, and we've actually got a golfer who sends in a putting stroke, which is fantastic because it keeps it a little bit more varied if we get different types of shots. So if you would like to have your swing analysed, your putting stroke, your bunker shots, whatever it may be, feel free to send me an email. You can email me at swings@chrisryangolf.com, or the other way to send me a video is via Instagram. On there, my handle is @chrisryangolf. So send me as many videos as you like, and hopefully you will feature on this video series. So the first one we're going to show you, as you can see on the screen there, is Dave Murray. Now Dave emailed me. He actually sent me a couple of videos from Face On Down the Line. And we're going to take a look at a couple of things that I think Dave could look at to improve. The first thing I would say, this looks like a fantastic golf swing. I think he said it's only a pitching wedge he's hitting here, but there are some really nice movements that Dave does, which I think means he's going to hit plenty of good shots. But we're going to touch on a couple of things in the downswing. So the first thing we're going to do is going to play this swing through so you can see it first of all. So you can see obviously Dave's hitting indoors, but it doesn't really matter. And through to a nice finish. So again, you know, pretty good golf swing. I think we'd all agree that looks fairly good. There's some nice shapes to it, some nice looks to it. So we're just going to go back and find the starting point, which is here, and we're just going to put a couple of little reference points. Now, the camera angle here isn't perfect, but it's pretty good. We can get an idea about some of the moving parts here. And you will notice that because the camera angle isn't perfect, it almost appears that this club gets dragged a little bit too much inside. But I think that might be just due to the camera angle as opposed to actually the move that Dave is making. So if we take Dave all the way to the top, we're going to see some really nice things there. So we can see the knees changing flex quite nicely. We see the hips are turning on a good angle. The club's in a nice position. So we're seeing some nice shapes here. As we start down, what I would tend to see here would be, as we get to this point here, I would like to take a look at Dave's trail elbow. So you can see his elbow in there. And to me, this elbow looks a little bit what we call as internally rotated. So effectively, his elbow is pointing too much out behind him. At this point here, I would probably like to see his trail elbow a little bit lower than his lead elbow. So looking from a face-on view, his trail elbow a little bit lower. And you can see if we put a line on here, we can see his actually lead elbow is probably a little bit lower. So certainly I would look at how Dave uses his trail arm, because I think what we're going to see as he starts to get down into impact, his trail arm for me gets a little bit too much to the side of his body. And I think this is going to make it a little bit more difficult for him to deliver the club as we'd like it. Maybe a little bit more difficult for him to get the right power, the right angle of attack, the right compression on the golf ball. So certainly on the way down, I would look at how Dave uses his trail arm. I would like to see that trail arm get a little bit more what we call externally rotated, feel like it points a little bit more down towards the ground. I think that's really going to help him. I would like to see this from a different camera angle, but there's a half a chance that we would like to change how his elbow works on the way back, because for me, he already starts to get this elbow working a little bit more retracted behind him. I would like to see him fold that trail elbow a little bit better in the backswing, and then just allow him to almost maintain that a little bit more in the downswing. So I'll be getting Dave to do lots of kind of right arm or trail arm drills, trying to get that feeling of folding that arm, getting that elbow pointing more down towards the ground, and then from the top really working on getting that back in front of him. I think that's really going to help him. But as I say right at the start, there's some really nice shapes to this golf swing. You know, and I think a couple of tweaks in that right arm, we can get this golfer much better. So Dave, if you're watching, hopefully that helps. Explore that right arm. There's plenty of drills out there. In fact, I'll link a couple down below that I've done on the trail arm, and hopefully that's going to help you hit the ball a little bit better. Right, let's pull in our next golf swing. So let's pull this one in. So this was sent to me via Instagram. And this one, the Instagram name for this golfer was Goodies12. Okay, so as with the other ones, we're just going to play it first of all. So let me get it to the point where the club moves away. Okay, which is there. Okay, so let me play this through first of all. Okay, and this golfer to me looks like they've got a fair bit of speed, which is good. Now, in the message that I got via Instagram, this golfer explained of hitting right to left shots, struggling with hook shots. And I think when we start to slow this down, we can see why those things are happening. You can see posture isn't perfect. Okay, to me, you know, not great, not exactly setting up the ball perfectly. However, I think this is a great example of a situation where if we were to change posture and make it perfect, the ball would still hook, it'd still draw, that golfer would still experience the same shot. So changing posture, I don't think at this stage would actually give this golfer any benefit. But what you will actually notice is if we take a look at where this golf club is during the sort of downstroke, let's find this position here. We can see at this point here, I know it goes a little bit blurry, but you can see where the club head is, very much behind the hands, which is probably going to give this club path more of a rightward kind of aim, if you like. So this golfer, his club will actually be travelling excessively to the right of the target, which means that he's going to have to close the face by some amount. And when we start to close the face of the path, we get lots of right to left. This golfer, I would suggest, is going to hit pushes or hooks. Those are the two shots I would expect to see. This golfer was experiencing more hooks. That's absolutely fine, but it wouldn't be that difficult for this golfer to hit a push shot and miss the target on the right-hand side. So when we get this golfer up to the top, which is here, you're going to see how, if I just mark his grip end, you're going to see as he progresses to the top of his swing and starts down, you can see how he drops the arms very much more in behind him. And this is what really allows that club to get a little bit more behind him. This golfer might use terms such as stuck or not as much room, or those kind of things. So if we get this golfer to the top, what I would be really looking to do with this golfer is get them to feel like when they get to the top, they keep the hands very, very high. So they never let the hands get lower than this. The hands will get lower than this, we know that. But the feeling would be once this golfer gets to the top, they keep the hands very high and they work a little bit more on their rotation. So starting to move their left knee out the way, their left hip out the way, even their left shoulder out the way, and start to open the body up a little bit quicker. If we can do that, if we can keep the handle high, open the body up quicker, we should get the handle moving a little bit more down this way. So a little bit more out towards the golf ball rather than that club maybe getting dropped too far behind him. You can see as this golfer does that, not a huge amount of rotation in the lower body. Knees haven't really rotated, hips haven't really rotated. Difficult to see, but you'd guess that torso and upper body maybe hasn't rotated as much as we'd like to see that as well. So path to the right, I think, is what we see with this golfer. Making a backswing, which is fairly similar to what we see there, but feeling we keep the handle high, we rotate the body more, get that body more open earlier, and I think that's going to give that golfer the opportunity to move his path a little bit closer to the target line. The only thing we'd have to bear in mind is if this golfer still shuts the face, we're going to get some seriously left shots. So once we can get this golfer moving the club on a more neutral path, we would have to look at realigning the club face to that. In some instances, the golfer's inbuilt skill, ability, awareness will almost do that for us. So he would kind of be aware that he doesn't need to shut the face now, and we'd see a more neutral face. It may well be we have to talk a little bit about release this golfer and trying to get them to feel like they hold the face open a little bit more to neutralise the ball flight. So hopefully we've given that golfer some advice on how they can improve. Now, this last video was sent in by Jeff Berger. And this is a putting video. And we can see Jeff hitting here what he described as about a 15-foot putt. But he said in his email to me that he really struggled with putting, had often between 35 and 40 putts, and that was really holding him back. And certainly, you know, if a golfer's having that many putts, we would like to see some change there to get them down. Now, as you can imagine, putting is a tough one to look at because there's different facets of putting. There's distance control, there's green reading, there's start line. There's all these different things that we have to sort of look at and take into account when assessing someone's putting. There could be a golfer who has an absolutely fantastic putting stroke, but they just read the greens incredibly poorly. So as you can imagine, it's very difficult to give the exact accurate advice without having the bigger picture, but we're going to take a look at this one here with Jeff and see what we can do. Now, you'll notice that he adopts a cross-handed grip with his lead hand is much lower, which is absolutely fine. And if we just play this putting stroke through, the camera does move around a little bit here. Okay, we're going to play that through, as you can see. and through. Now, as I say, that was about a 15-foot putt. Now, what I would just initially get Jeff to do here would be just to control the club face, or sorry, the club head a little bit more with his arms and his shoulders. For me, he's using a little bit too much of his wrists here, and we can see that very much in this this trail wrist here, which as he makes contact with the ball, you're going to notice that trail wrist really starts to straighten out here as he goes through. So this trail wrist is really starting to do this. Really, really simple drill that we could get Jeff to do here. I've got a putter. I've got a golf ball. And all we would get him to do is take his normal address, but maybe just go down the putter for this little exercise and just place the ball between the grip end and his left hand. So you can see how I would just have a ball between, if I can get it in there, go on, stay. Just have a ball in here. Now, as you can imagine, as I'm making putting strokes, I'm going to have to keep the pressure on that ball to keep it in place. If I start to use too much wrist action, that ball is going to drop out. So really, really simple little drill. It's going to give him a little bit more awareness of what his wrists are doing. It's going to feel, for me, I would try and get him to feel a little bit firmer with his lead wrist. And I'd actually get Jeff to think a little bit more about moving the grip end of the golf club as opposed to moving the club head end, because for me, he's moving the club head end a lot, not the grip end. And we can actually see, you know, when we get through impact, you can notice how if I get rid of that line here, and obviously the camera does move around here, so we can't look exactly, but the butt of the club isn't moving a huge amount through impact, but the club head is, and that would indicate a lot of wrists. We also see here with Jeff that his head tends to look a little bit too soon. So his head is already starting to rotate. So really what I would look at doing here would be just to try and get a little bit more stable putting stroke, maybe try and keep the head down a little bit longer, maybe try and firm up the wrists. And I think that's really going to help him with his distance control. And for a lot of golfers who struggle with putting, who have kind of in that region of kind of 35 to 40 putts, the distance control is key. If we can get them to control distance better, they're often much, much closer. The next putt becomes much shorter, and they can often two putt where they were maybe three putting. So 3 different golf swings there. Sorry, 2 different golf swings and a putting stroke. So different ideas that we can maybe explore with those. As I say, the idea of this video series is really just to give these golfers something they can maybe pursue in terms of some lessons with a local coach or someone they trust for that kind of thing. But really it's a case of just giving them an idea about what they might want to look at to improve their ball striking, their overall game, and ultimately lower their scores. So 3 people, I really hope that's helped you. Let me know in the comments box if it did help you, and hopefully if you were watching but this wasn't you on the screen, again, hopefully there's something in there that you've maybe learned, you've picked up, maybe something that made you think about your golf swing in a different way. And that's really what these videos are really about, is trying to get people to think differently about their games, maybe try and understand their golf swing a little bit more, maybe understand the golf game a little bit more, and make some better decisions when you're on the course and ultimately when you're practicing. So as I said right at the start, if you would like to have your swing featured, email me at swings@chrisryangolf.com, or you can you can Instagram me at chrisryangolf, send me a message on there, attach your swing video, and hopefully you will feature on this video series in the coming weeks. Thank you very much all of you for watching. Really hope you enjoyed the video. Usual stuff is down below. There's a comments box, there's a like button, and there's also a link to subscribe to the channel. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and click that link. It just means you'll get a notification each time I upload a video. Thank you once again for watching, and we shall see you again next week.